Since gaining the supermajority in the West Virginia Senate, factions have developed among Republicans, and despite the factions sharing very similar political and philosophical positions, this primary election has evolved into a referendum on which group will have control of the state Senate and in some ways have control of the Republican Party. With that at stake, Governor Patrick Morrisey has been very active leading up to the primary, endorsing candidates and even going door to door in some instances to support candidates who will back his agenda. Former state Senate President Mitch Carmichael says the governor's approach is a gamble.
You're going to make enemies one way or the other on it. But having said that, I think he has every right to promote the candidates he wants to have advance his agenda. And the voters have the opportunity to look at what are the issues that you want to, advance.
The most obvious difference in the two factions are the issues. Now, it's not so much that there's disagreement on the issues. All of the Republicans running in this primary season are conservative, despite the campaign rhetoric. It's not really a question of some Republican members of the Senate being conservative or moderate. The differences are in the legislative priorities and whether or not social and cultural issues should take precedence or whether the focus should be on business, job creation, and economic growth. Those key differences have drawn interest from outside the state, with millions of dollars funneling into West Virginia through political action committees associated with Governor Morrisey and current Senate President Randy Smith. State Treasurer Larry Pack says this has added to the Republican tension.
Usually you see this on a national level. You see this as far as Republicans attacking Democrats or Democrats attacking Republicans. This time in West Virginia, it's an inter-party fight, and it's really nasty.
GOP strategist Greg Thomas helped recruit and has worked with candidates in the Tom Takubo faction and says the introduction of outside money has skewed the conversation away from the issues that voters are actually interested in.
I refer to this election as sort of a gross out election. They're purposefully running the grossest, most dishonest, deceitful, shameful campaign they can to try to suppress voters. We know voters want to hear about jobs and the economy and roads and schools. Let's talk about the most ridiculous stuff we can that just grosses people out so they don't come out and vote, so they don't pay attention, so they don't see that the West Virginia interest candidates are significantly better than the out-of-state special interest candidates.
Jason Huffman is the state director for Americans for Prosperity and disagrees. Huffman asserts that the competition in the primary is healthy and holds the incumbents accountable and believes voters will not be fooled.
I have a lot of trust in voters in West Virginia, and frankly, that's why I think this election cycle was going to be a referendum on politicians that didn't live up to those first principles.
The top target of political action committees supporting the Morrisey-Smith slate of candidates has been former Senate Majority Leader Tom Takubo. Nearly $1 million has been spent by PACs in the 17th Senate District race between Takubo and challenger Chris Pritt. Most of that has been spent opposing Takubo.
I can't explain why we have seen this gigantic flood of dark money into West Virginia. You know, the two things I can tell you is, number one, that it's not good, and number two, that somebody's looking for a return on investment. So, you know, there are millionaires and billionaires, and we've never seen this before in West Virginia, that is sending, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars, now it's millions being sunk into West Virginia against local candidates. They've never met me. They've never seen what I go out and I do for the community. They've never met my opponent. They've never met Randy Smith. You know who they have met? Patrick Morrisey. That's who they've met.
In the 10th District, Governor Morrisey made one of his first endorsements for Jonathan Comer, who is challenging incumbent Senator Vince Deeds. Political action committees have spent over $500,000 in that race. Deeds believes the outcome of the election will impact the legislature's effectiveness for at least the next 2 years.
If the Morrisey faction takes over, we'll have more of the same discontent and division that we've had in 25 and 26. We all know that in 25 and 26, there's been a division in the Senate, and the Morriseys do not believe in three branches of government. They really have a stranglehold on the Senate.
But Huffman says the amount of money being spent by the PACs is being blown out of proportion.
Free speech isn't free. You got to get on the airwaves. You guys sell radio ads here, you know that. And to get a message out, it takes money. And I just look at it like the competition of ideas, where, at least from our perspective, what we're trying to inform voters about is where lawmakers stood on the issues that are critical to them.
The lines were clearly drawn prior to the campaign season, and after a brutal intra-party primary this spring, it may be difficult, if not impossible, for members of the grand old party in the state Senate to put aside their differences when they arrive at the state capitol in January for the legislative session. But former state Senate President Mitch Carmichael advises that's exactly what needs to happen once the dust settles.
Do what's right for the people of West Virginia. Do not put personalities or personal grievances or anything of that sort in the way of advancing good legislation.
For Metro News Decision 2026, I'm Dave Wilson.